All right, boom. I think I'm live, but I'm just gonna wait and check. Are we live? Are we live? I don't see anything yet. Just a sec. PPC Mastery. Yeah, we're live. Okay. Boom. I see the first person is actually in. Can you tell me in the chat if you can hear me? MP, good morning. All right, good morning, good morning. I think it's working. Can you guys hear me? Can you just tell me in the chat whether you can hear me or not? Please. Just gonna wait for some more people to come in as well. At here, we're live. 1 sec, we'll get started in a little bit. Let me know if you can hear me. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Cool. I see people can hear me. All right. Thanks for joining again, guys. I see Hamza, NP, Arthur, Geert, Vishal, Katrijn. Thanks for joining, guys. Bob's not here today. We were meant to do it together, of course, as always. But his camper van actually is broken, and they were supposed to get it fixed this week at the garage. It turns out that they couldn't fix it here, so they had to tow the van to a new fixer. So I don't even know what the word is. I'm looking for the word, but they have to tow it to another place. So unfortunately, Bob can't make it today as he has to take care of his camper van. So it's just going to be me. So you're stuck with me for today. We're going to do it the same way as always. If you have questions, Google Ads related, of course, just drop them in the comments or in the chat, whatever how it works. If you're on YouTube, you can just drop it there. If you're on LinkedIn, you can also drop it. And to kick it off, I'm just going to take some questions from Discord, put them on the screen. And then I'm sure that the next questions will actually come in as well. So let's just kick it off with the first question. One sec, guys. Here we go. This is from Emil. Probably can't show completely on the screen, but I'll actually read it. So this question from Emil inside of the community. Would be great to hear some points of view around standard shopping these days. Really curious to hear if you have clients still using this exclusively, and if they are, what's your take on campaign structures, bid strategies, and so on, with Performance Max looking like the primary shopping tool for many advertisers. So yeah, I love this question, Emil. Thanks for asking. I definitely do still use standard shopping, but not exclusively. So for some of my clients, we have Performance Max live with, let's say, the main products. And then there's also a range of products that we don't want to run Performance Max campaigns on because we want more control on those specific product categories or product IDs. And then we might just isolate them, separate them into standard shopping campaigns. So what I now do sometimes is I put the highest value products that really need to be pushed hard and are high value to the business. I put them in Performance Max. But there are also products that are lower value, maybe like lower AOV or lower price point, or just less important in general. Then I could sometimes just isolate them inside of a standard shopping campaign, because I don't want to have all of the extra, let's say, placements that Performance Max offers on those specific products. So I haven't actually recently tested only standard shopping versus Performance Max, because of when Performance Max force migrated, let's say June, July, that period. We had a few months in between where we could really test a lot of things. But now it's, Black Friday is almost here, and it's not the right timing to do those kinds of bigger tests, because I think switching from PMax to standard shopping is on itself is really like, super big test, and I don't think you should do that 1 or 2 weeks before the absolute peak of the year. But I'm actually definitely still interested in testing that going forward next year. But it also depends on the size of the client and the goals that we have. So yeah, that's my take on standard shopping right now. For everyone watching, and just if you just joined, welcome. Thanks for joining. Michelle says, Discord gang, where you at? I think it's mostly Discord gang here. If you have questions, guys, either on LinkedIn or on Google, just drop them in the chat. And otherwise, I'm just going to go and check out a new question from Discord. All right, one sec, guys. Let me pull it up. This is from Mike in the community. Man, this is so hard to do all these things at the same time. Yeah, here we go. So Mike is asking, and it's also, the question is also too long to put on the screen, but it's fine. Would be, what are your standard operating procedure suggestions for managing e-com accounts with 19 markets? To expand on last week's question, you mentioned the daily overview of campaigns to get the complete picture. What are you reporting on a weekly, monthly, quarterly basis? All right, Mike, excellent question. Yeah, last week we discussed like how to keep a grip on your accounts, especially if they are big. I have some super ambitious clients in Europe that are basically active in all of Europe. So Netherlands, Belgium, Germany, Austria, Switzerland, UK, all of the UK, Spain, France, those countries, and maybe a few more that I'm missing now. Denmark, Nordics, Norway, Sweden. So it's definitely really hard to manage all of that together, especially if you're working with a lot of different languages. And you need to make sure that you have a structure in place for how to check those campaigns, how to check those accounts. So this is what I would suggest for the standard operating procedures. Every day when I begin my workday, I just go through, and this is super unscalable, let's call it that, and a lot of people won't do this. But what I do every day is I log in and I go into the campaigns, and I go into Google Ads, or if I use Northbeam, for example, or Google Analytics, I just go through. I just go to the platform, and the first thing that I do is just scroll through, and it takes me like 5 minutes. And by scrolling through, I kind of gauge how every product is, or how every campaign is performing. So what I want to see every morning is just what are the metrics for all of my campaigns from yesterday, because I can then keep that in mind for when I'm maybe optimizing later on in that week. So I'm definitely not taking action on those on the data that I'm seeing from, let's say, yesterday, because we know that there's always conversion lag and more conversions will come in, and one day of data is definitely not trustworthy to base your actions on, but it does help me to keep a grip on the entire account. But that is something that I don't hear a lot of people talking about, and it's definitely not scalable. It's also not sexy. It's not automated, but it does help me personally keep a sort of helicopter view of the entire account. So that's definitely one thing that I always begin with. Just daily, 5 minutes. I have a few clients, and then a few accounts. Like if you have hundreds of accounts, then maybe it's a bit more difficult. Then maybe you need like a dashboarding tool. But for me, I have about 6 clients. Most of them are relatively big. That's just what I do in the first thing in the morning when I check the accounts. That's one. But then of course, like there's a lot of standard operating procedures for managing a lot of different accounts with different markets. So let me just run it through off the top of my head what I'm thinking about now. And the second part of Mike's question is also, what about reporting? What are you doing on a weekly, monthly, quarterly basis? So when it comes to reporting, I either build something myself in spreadsheets, or I use Notion or Looker Studio. I want to say Data Studio, but Looker Studio, of course. It kind of depends on what the client that I'm working with is using, or what we decide on using. But if you have super complex accounts, then yeah, with 19 markets, then you definitely want to have one like big dashboard that has all the most important metrics for yeah, just on overall level. Like let's say your spend, your revenue, your ROAS, your cost to acquire a customer, whatever the metric is for you, per country, per market, maybe even per campaign type. So then it's just super easy to see at one glance, like, okay, that's what the performance is like right now. And when it comes to reporting on that data, yeah, it depends on what you discuss with your client. So for me, I use Slack always. I stopped using email with my clients because I hate it. I hate email. My inbox is basically just a collection of newsletters, and it's really easy to get lost in there. And I don't want any communication to get lost with my clients because I want to be on top of it. So what I do is I use Slack with all of my clients, and we have, of course, our weekly calls or whenever we need to do calls. And on Slack, I just report on. It's really fast. Like when I was working at an agency before, it was much more formal, I would say. Much more like, yeah, I have to write a weekly report or monthly report and send it to my client. The clients that I'm working with right now are super modern in the sense that we are in touch so often with like micro communication that we're always on top of it. And that personally for me works really well. Because then I don't have to write like long weekly reports and all that stuff. Especially if you have a dashboard and everyone has access to the dashboard, then that's a big lifesaver for sure. But whatever I report on a weekly, monthly, or quarterly basis depends on what you decide or what I decide upon with my client to report on. So let's just have an example here. If I have a client and we want to reach a ROAS of 250%, then that might be the North Star metric, and then that is the first thing that I report on. And I make sure that we are aligned on the few metrics that are actually important to that business, and the rest is just extra. I used to, in the beginning when I started, I used to report on everything like impressions, clicks, CTR, CPC, quality score. But then for a lot of clients, they just want to understand, like, okay, how much money did we put in? How much money do we want to do we want to make from it, and how profitable are we? So you just got to make sure that you discuss that with your client and then report that on a weekly, monthly, quarterly basis, whatever you decide on together. And yeah, furthermore, like standard operating procedures is just making sure that you they also depend on the campaign types that you're running, right? But definitely hygiene management, like search term reports, all that stuff, managing your performance max campaigns, analyzing product performance, etc. I think the standard operating procedures now involve a lot of analyzing, whereas before it was a lot of like managing bids and all that stuff. Now my SOPs are mostly around analyzing and making sure that I stay on top of the data. So I hope that helped, Mike. And if there's any other questions, just let me know. I'm just gonna check if we have any questions from YouTube. Yeah, Hamza, thank you for your question, man. If we are running a performance max campaign with feed only, does that make sense to add audience signals in it? And here's a follow-up, because PMax is going to show ads to people. If their query match with their product title and description, doesn't matter if they are in the audience signal or not. So yeah, great question. The first thing that you need to consider is definitely audience signals is not targeting. So with audience signals, it's basically a nudge for Google to guide them in the right direction of what type of people you want to reach with your ads. And it is more important with upper funnel, mid funnel placements than it is with lower funnel placements like search shopping. So I think it doesn't really hurt to still add in audience signals to feed only campaigns. But I also don't really think that it matters a lot, because as you said, it's all based on search search behavior, search intent. But to be honest, I don't have data to back it up, so it's an assumption. But going off of how the campaigns or how audience signals work, and how matching works on search and shopping, which is keyword based, um, I think it doesn't really matter as much. And I haven't really seen like big differences in performance between um, feed only PMax campaigns with or without audience signals. But then again, like it doesn't really hurt to add them anyway. So I hope that was clear. Um, I just want to understand: is this you, Mike? Because if so, you're welcome. um, Adrian is asking: is there a budget slash product ratio? Because sometimes I see Performance Max with a small budget and a lot of products. Can you elaborate a bit on this? Can you just give a little bit more context? I just want to understand, like, yeah, what's your question exactly? Cool, guys. If you have any other questions, just let me know in the comments, or in the chat, whatever, how that works. I'm just gonna pull up another question from Discord from Helal. Awesome question. This is all right. Cool, cool, Mike. Then I know it's MP is you. So next question from Helal in the Discord community. Um, this is buggy. Let's do it again. Yep, there we go. Question: for the Swedish market, should I write ads in the Swedish language? The website is in English. So this is a perfect question, and the perfect answer is it depends, because I've actually tested this a lot in the past. So for Dutch brands, but I guess for any European brand, um, yeah, let me just go back and give a little bit of context in how that worked back then. So I had a client that was big in the Netherlands, and they wanted to expand to Sweden. So, and this happens a lot. Like Netherlands is a small country. After a while, it just begins to become saturated, and people or brands start to look at different markets to enter, like Germany, UK, Nordics is really big like these days. So then they also had the idea of, okay, maybe we can launch in Sweden. The website that they had was also in English. So we decided in the beginning to just run English ads to those English websites. And the reason that we did that is just because it was easier for us to write English ads, because we didn't have a Swedish copywriter or someone with actual knowledge about the Swedish language. Um, and that was okay. That went perfectly fine. But I have also noticed differences in with another client, and they did the same. But instead of running English ads to an English website, they had Swedish ads to a Swedish website. And yeah, conversion rates were higher, CTRs were higher, and that's just basically because if you can manage to speak in someone's native language, then that's always going to help. But then again, I think Sweden is a lot like the Netherlands, where people speak English really well. So that's also something to take into consideration. Like, how much does it really matter? It's a matter of testing. So what I've noticed is another example. It's not Sweden, but it's in the US actually. One thing that we were testing with the client is they were in the US, and US is super big, right? And huge market. Most of the people speak English, of course, but then there's also a big part of the people in the country that speak Spanish. So what we wanted to test is, should we expand our targeting to Spanish speaking people? So then the first thing that we did, the website was still in English. We created Spanish ads that we ran to an English website. But then what happened was a lot of those Spanish people didn't really speak English well. So they saw the Spanish ad, they clicked, and they bounced. Like, we had a super high bounce rate and low conversion rate, because there is a mismatch between the languages. So they expect to click on something, they see Spanish, so they expect to see Spanish landing page. They land on an English landing page, cannot translate it, boom, they leave. So that was a big learning, especially for Spanish speaking people in the US, that having that mismatch between languages in your ads and landing pages can definitely hurt your conversion rates. For Sweden, it might be a little bit different because a lot of Swedish speaking people speak English much better than Spanish people. Spanish speaking people speak English. That's a whole mouthful, but yeah, that's that. I hope that makes sense. Doesn't make sense in my head. But generally speaking, it's okay to try it out. If you have the possibility to write Swedish ads, do it, test it, small budget, let them land on the English landing page, see what happens to your conversion rates, your bounce rates, etc. Then you could also do just try English in the beginning. It's up to you, but that's just my personal experience. Having the match between the languages on the ad and the landing page is always a boost to conversion rates and bounce rates. But in some markets, it's different than others. Cool. Moving on to more questions from the chat. Let's see. Okay, Adrian. Okay, so basically your question was, is there a budget slash product ratio for Performance Max? So should you have an X amount? Is smart bidding working less if you have too many products with a small budget? Yeah, there's not like an actual ratio that I can give you here, but I've just to give you a bit of context on an example from my experience. I've had clients with tens of thousands of products or product IDs, and I've also had clients with only like 50. And in most cases, you will have a few products that are just like performing well and performing much better than the rest. And then that's okay to isolate them into a single campaign if that is needed and if that makes sense for your specific case. So I've definitely had one product Performance Max campaigns work really well and scale really well. So that kind of proved to me that there is not necessarily a fixed budget to product ratio that you need to have. But yeah, just understand if you have a lot of products and you have small budget, then you need to make decisions, because otherwise you're spreading yourself too thin. And then maybe let's say you only have like 50 euros per day to test, and you have 10,000 product IDs. If you have 50 euros per day, then maybe you will get like 25 to 50 clicks, and you have 10,000 products. Even if they are divided into specific product categories, and maybe you have 200 product categories or product types, then there's still not enough budget to test everything. So I think what I would usually do then with a small budget is beforehand decide which products are likely to be of high value and distinguish them from low value products, and then maybe just begin with the high value products first. Or you can just do everything at the same time and then see what sticks and try to scale a little bit of those products that you see show great performance. But if you have small budget, then it's okay beforehand to cut out a lot of the products that you don't think are going to perform well or are not important to your business. But there's not like a fixed budget to product ratio, because if you have one product that has enough search volume, then that in itself can already like scale super far. But at the same time, if you have a lot of different products, with small budget, then it could be a little bit difficult. Cool. Question from John. I like this. This is one of my favorite topics, actually. How do you deal with managing the shopping feed for Performance Max? Do you leave that to the client? Yes and no. So when it comes to generating the feed, I will ask my client to generate it for me. So most of my clients, actually all of them now, are on Shopify. So most of my clients are not technical, so they don't really know how to build a feed. I have one client, and one of the owners, he's tech savvy, smart guy. He knows how to create shopping feeds, so he actually just codes them in XML. But for the other ones, I just use an app called Google Shopping Feed or something like that. XML for shopping feeds. Used to be the one by AdWords Robot. Um, and I just put that inside of Channable. And then from Channable, I generate a feed that I send to Google Merchant Center. So then the reason that I use Channable, which is a feed management tool, is because I can make small changes to the feed whenever necessary. So let's say, for example, you have your product page. I have a microphone here. Let's say I'm selling this microphone, right? If I have the title, the headline, the title on the product page is oftentimes different from the title that I will have in my shopping ad, because in the shopping ad, this is the USB microphone, something like that. And the title on the shopping on the product page is usually just really simple and to the point about the product, like a few words. But in the shopping ads, maybe I want to add some keywords like podcast microphone or wireless microphone, or whatever is applicable to that product. You can just put it in the title. For myself, to make it easier to make those kinds of optimizations and tests, I manage the feed inside of Channable. And you can also use Data Feed Watch or whatever, but I use Channable. It's just really nice. And then it gives me flexibility because I don't have to ask everything to my client, like, hey, can you please change the title, or can you please add the color red to this specific product? And then that's really easy, and you don't have to bombard your client with those questions, because a lot of times they don't know how to do it either. So then I just do it inside of the tool like Channable. If there's something that I cannot fix, then I will ask the client, of course. So here's an example, the real life example as well. Let's say your GTINs are missing. So every product should have a GTIN or an MPN. It's just like the global trade identification number or the manufacturer part number. And that is just like a barcode that that defines a specific product, so that Google can recognize the product is a specific product. And you need them actually to run your ads. If you don't have GTINs or MPNs, you could get your products disapproved. So I'm not gonna go on the web and search for different GTINs. So here's an example. Actually, I saw this here. It's like some kind of spray. The barcode here on the back, that is probably the GTIN. If my client is selling this spray, then I could go online and look for the GTIN, look for the barcode, but that's going to be such a waste of time for me, because I can spend my time much better than that. So when it comes to those basic things, I just ask the client, like, hey, can you please add the GTINs, can you add the information to the products, either inside of Shopify or whatever platform you're using, and otherwise on to the feed. But when it comes to optimizations like colors, materials, titles, description, product types, custom labels, all those things, I like to be flexible and just manage it myself inside of Channable. I hope that helps, man. Great question. Edwin says, can't hang out, but just saying hi. What's up, man? Thanks for stopping by. Any other question, guys? I have one. It's a huge one from Pascal. Okay, here we go. It's in the community, and Doubt actually also asked about this. So I'm gonna pull it up and see if it works. It's a huge question, so I'm just gonna write it. So we see that consolidating campaigns works really well. We use the hero, sidekicks, villains, and zombies setup for product hero, full assets. Practice shows that we have too many SKUs that end up in zombies. Yep, 5,000 to 7,000 SKUs that do little to nothing and don't even get a chance to appear in shopping. Our idea is to target those in a separate campaign, preferably do that based on performance data. So all zombies with less than 2 clicks, but that has proven difficult to implement properly. Thanks, Pascal, by the way, for all of the context. We can make a separate campaign for them, but that would mean we'd have to exclude those 5 to 7K products manually, one by one, on product ID level in the current zombies campaign, which of course would take way too long. The alternative is to split zombies into separate campaigns anyway on a broader category level, at the risk of counteracting the positive effects of consolidation, especially close to Black Friday. Our preference is the latter, and we don't see alternative. How would you guys handle this? Great question, man. Wow, 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 wow. Okay, so I see a few different things here, right? So you have a consolidated campaign approach. You use the product hero setup with heroes, sidekicks, villains, and zombies. If you're not aware what that is, it's super nice. I'm testing this as well right now. It's an advanced campaign structure setup where you have um, sort of automated way of putting your products in different buckets based on performance. So your heroes are your best performing products, your sidekicks are second best performing products, your villains are products that do not perform well, and your zombies are the products with almost no impressions. So that's really nice. Like if a product starts to perform well, it's being pushed in heroes, and heroes usually have more budget, so you're spending more on your well-performing products, and the other way around for bad-performing products. But the question here basically is, we have thousands of products in in the campaign that get 0 impressions. How would I go and work with that? So yeah, that's a tough one, man. You could exactly as you're saying, target them in a separate campaign. If you already have a zombie, because you're using the product hero setup, right? So you already have a zombie campaign, which is zombies are the products with 0 impressions. If you already have that, then you could maybe increase the daily budget of that campaign so that you spend a bit more on those products. Something else that you could try is decrease your ROAS targets a little bit on the zombie campaign, so that then if your ROAS targets are always the same, let's say 500% on every campaign, and you just slightly lower them to maybe like 450 on the zombies, then that's a signal for Google to just push a little bit more on those because the ROAS target is lower. So that could be one. But it's also like super hard because you still have thousands of other products, and you're basically left to the mercy of Google to push specific products. Yes, and other ones will also still get ignored. So that's one way that you could do it. What you're saying with the splitting up the zombies into broader categories, that could also be fine. But maybe like determine beforehand already, like how bad is it that you have so many products inside of the zombies, and are you spending your daily budget on the campaign of your zombies? So if you're not spending it, try lowering the ROAS target, or maybe like increase the daily budgets there. But yeah, this is super hard, man. This is just a matter of tweaking and trying and testing. And if you make one of those changes, like maybe you can start with one specific product category that you take from the zombie campaign and see how that works before you do that for, like, let's say 10, 15, 20 categories. I would always suggest to like start small and validate the idea first before you do it for the entire like structure. So that could be one. But I will definitely be super careful, as you're also saying, with how that would impact your performance so close to Black Friday. So I am actually not going to make too many big changes now between now and next week Friday. And yeah, let's say the sale runs usually until somewhere in the week of Cyber Monday. I'm not going to be making too many big structural changes because for me, it's just too risky. So if the performance is good on your side, I cannot judge it because I don't have all of the context. But then I would definitely suggest to be careful with super big, like crazy changes to account setup and campaign structure, etc. So then I would just go and like begin with a few small tests, as I said, maybe like separate 1 or 2 product categories from the zombie campaign, see how that goes, and then work with that from there. I hope that helps, man. It's just a matter of testing and tweaking and all that stuff. So can we get one final question in the chat, guys? Otherwise, I'm gonna end it here. Next week, Bob is going to be back again as well. Let me know, guys, in the chat if you have anything else. Otherwise, that's going to be it. for everyone that is watching live or was watching the replay, don't forget to subscribe to. I'm trying to figure this out with StreamYard. It's funny. You can do a lot of things with this, but I suck at it today. Yeah, here we go. You can, if you haven't already, you can subscribe to our weekly newsletter, ppcmastery.com/blog. We will share one advanced Google Ads tip every Monday morning. Yeah, we have a lot of cool topics coming up, also on Performance Max in a few weeks' time. And if you haven't already, join our Discord community as well at ppcmastery.com/community. It's completely free. You also saw a lot of the questions coming in today were from the community, actually. All right, cool. We have one final question from Cheryl. And before we do that, one sec, just gonna, here we go. How can we add negative keywords in Performance Max? Performance Max drives a lot of irrelevant leads. How do we avoid them? That's actually two questions, but first, first thing that you can do to exclude keywords or add negative keywords in Performance Max is, I'm actually going to look up our blog. It's on, yeah, I don't know if I can actually share it here, but if you go to our blog, our newsletter, PPC Ads number 9 talks about this. It's the simple 3-step process to add negatives to Performance Max. And you can basically ask your, we got this from Geert, shout out to Geert, thank you. You can basically ask your Google support to add a negative keyword list, or no, sorry, I have to go back. You create a negative keyword list, then you ask Google support to add that negative keyword list to your Performance Max campaign, and then you can just add whatever keywords you want to add to your to that list. So I usually have one specific list for one specific campaign, and I let support add that, and then I add the keywords to negative keywords to that list. That's it. Cool, guys. I'm just gonna end it here. Next week, Bob is gonna be back again. He had some issues with his camper van, so hopefully that will be fixed soon. I want to thank you all for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Subscribe to the blog. I mean to the newsletter. Join our Discord community. Thank you guys so much for watching. See you next time. Peace. Have a good weekend.